Alright guys, today we're finishing up with Fernando. He traveled here from Arkansas. He got here on Sunday. Fernando is a previous grant recipient and he had the pleasure of working with Ryan Fan in Savannah. Just this time, due to travel and all the stuff going on and going back to school, he decided to come see me in Nashville to get a quick tune-up. So Fernando is active in track. He likes to run 400 and 800. He's actually gone sub 60 time for that. So we're hoping with this new tune-up of prosthetics we're giving him, he'll be able to achieve some new goals and set some new records. The main issue why he's here is because he has this nice long residual Syme's amputation, and you might notice that he has some callousing on the bottom because I feel he's been walking on the end of his leg for the past 3 months when his legs stopped fitting him. The reason why it stopped fitting is just because he's still growing. He's about 14, 15. How old are you?
15.
15. So he's still growing. Boys meet skeletal maturity around 18 years old. So he's still growing in length and in volume. And so when he came to me, he couldn't even fit in his old socket. It was just super tight. So like I said, the past 3 months, he's been walking around on bare leg here. And so this amputation is really nice because when your leg isn't fitting or you want to shower or get around from point A to point B in the house, you can just walk on his leg. I don't have any radiographic images to really determine if this is a true Syme's amputation or a Boyd amputation. What we do know is he has a heel pad down here. He can fully distal end bear on his leg. What I like about his amputation is his heel pad has not slipped, or it's not as mobile as we've seen in the past. So his heel pad is preserved down here that he can actually utilize this. A lot of times these heel pads start to migrate and slip laterally or other directions, and it exposes the distal malleoli, and this becomes a pain point for people with it, and then you have to modify differently to allow this heel pad to go back to being in the distal position so they can utilize this tissue down here. And so I'm pleased that he has this nice Syme's amputation. He can distal end bear, and his heel pad is not mobile. And so because he has this amputation, we can get away from the use of using gel liners. Before he went to Ryan Fan in Savannah, Georgia, I believe he was wearing a gel liner with a pin lock, and he had some issues with that, and I'm sure he's a long leg, and with a long leg and an active person doing the activities he does, you sweat more. And so getting away from liners that are sweaty, I'm sure you look like a stinky kind of guy, right? No, I'm just kidding. But asking a 14 or 15-year-old to wash his liners every day and be hygienic is sometimes a task. And so if we can eliminate gel liners, that will preserve his skin, prevent athlete's foot and fungal infections, dermatitis, folliculitis, and also it minimizes sweat, and also it kind of frees up some funds that they can spend on other things like traveling to Nashville or something like that. So there's no maintenance required with a P-Light. His old P-Light lasted him, like I said, about 2 years when he saw Ryan Fan, and so that system was working great for him. Just the issue he had was he grew and he couldn't fit in his socket anymore. So he got here Sunday, and we took a new cast of his leg. We fit a bivalve Vivac check socket just to check for volume. And from that Vivac socket, we first did a walking leg. And so he has this posterior mount formula foot, which is really nice because it allows him to get some dynamic energy return from a foot versus a lot of these Syme's amputees that come to us with prosthetics. They have a distal mounted foot. And a lot of these distal mounted feet, they tend to be very stiff, don't have a lot of energy return or any give really. So this is his everyday walking foot. He can run on this, he can do any sports he really wants to, but because he is in track, we've also provided him with a running blade. We were able to, this is the same foot and blade he received 2 years ago, so all we're able to do is just take it off his old socket, realign it and attach it and accommodate the different height changes and reuse the same foot. So these feet are really nice to be able to swap in and out. You can even make height changes as needed, but it's been good because he hasn't broken anything yet, so all we had to do is just tune up the socket. Like I said, we started off with Vivac. We did this walking leg here, and currently his fit is going to be this Swiftwick sock, which is good for sweat absorption. You can wear this against the skin or over the P-Light, and we've given him a handout on how to manage volume with his P-Light. He's wearing this sheath right now. Earlier this week he was wearing a 3-ply on his skin and a sheath over the P-Light, so it's kind of personal preference on what he prefers for daily activities, and everyone's fit's a little bit different, so it's all about just finding what sock combination works for each individual here. So he's wearing this sock. You want to put that on for me here, Fabi? And again, this is his P-Light. It's stovepiped with a slit, in the back to allow it to expand so he can get in there. And then this sheath just to decrease friction, allow it to get on and off. And so he's going to put this on. As you can see, he just puts a sock on, puts this P-light on, and then he'll roll that sheath up and he'll step into his leg. And his leg is on. And so I'm going to have you take it off real quick just to see. I'm going to just show you real quick. This leg suspends really well. It's not going to fall off. You know, he has to put some force in order to get it off. The reason why it's hard to get off is because it's stovepiped accordingly because we're locking on just approximately to where he's bulbous distally. So this is just a stovepipe P-light socket setup right here. Stovepipe suspension, anatomical suspension with a sock fit. So I'm going to have you just take this off. You want to get one of them running real quick? Okay, so changing gears here real quick, you might notice that these socket trim lines are a little bit unconventional to a standard transtibial limb. Oftentimes his amputation was from trauma at about 3 years old, I believe. And so a lot of people who have this type of amputation, a lot of it is congenital, but oftentimes it's traumatic. In his case, it's traumatic, so we know that he has all of his ligaments and good muscle strength in his knee. In a congenital case, sometimes you're missing an ACL or MCL, or you might have some muscle lack of development in your thigh that creates some instability when you're walking. And so we always test their leg to see if we can get away with these lower trim lines by doing quick varus and valgus tests to determine if there's any laxity and some anterior drawer signs to see if they have the strength in the ligaments to preserve their knee joint. And so because he's strong and he had these trim lines for about 2 years, we knew he could get away with it again. These trim lines just allow him to use his muscles more because he doesn't need the extra socket around his knee for stability. We like him to use his muscles more for stability, and also if you don't need it that high, it just makes it more comfortable having less socket on your leg. But the key with these trim lines is it is still up to MPT level. It's just right where it begins to flare up for the patella. That's where we trim it down, and it all kind of just tapers posteriorly. So that's his trim lines. We actually call these Ryan Fan trim lines because I think Ryan Fan was one of the first guys that started cutting on his socket. It seems to work, and if we can get away with lower trim lines, less socket on someone, that's what our goal is to do. So this is his walking leg. His running leg works the same way. Again, this is a posterior mounted running blade. 2 bolts in the back, which is nice because if you ever break something, we can just swap it out real easy. And so it's the same ply fit. I think he wears a thicker sock on this because when you start to run, you might notice some more significant volume changes. So we kind of tell people to sock up ahead of time before a run because things become more loose. You can either sock up ahead of time before a run, or you stop halfway into your run and add a sock. Again, personal preference. If you can tolerate it being a little tight for the first 5-10 minutes, a lot of times it'll kind of stabilize and you don't need to add a sock or take a sock off. So you can go ahead and put that Swiftwick sock back on. And again, this is a 1-ply sock over this P-light. And every day is going to change as far as what sock might be good to him. Like I said, a couple days ago he was in a 3-ply. And so I do anticipate some growth. And so he does have some abilities to decrease ply in socks. He can wear a 1-ply sock on the skin. He can wear a sheath over the P-light. But like I said, a few days ago he was wearing a 3-ply. So the idea is kind of go from a thicker sock to a thinner sock over time as this becomes tight again because we anticipate him to continue to grow. So this is his running blade. He's going to slide that on. And then just face me if you don't mind, Fabi. Some things we look for is when he's kind of jogging in place, just kind of do some high knees for me there, Fabi. We're always looking to see where he's striking on that blade. And so the further back you're on the blade, the more hyperextension you're going to get. The further you're on the toe, the more flexion you're going to get. And so when we align these, we try to go about 1.5 inches back from the front of the blade. And this is kind of a good test to see, you know, how much compression you're getting from the blade and where he's striking on it. That's good. And so this is what he's going to use for track and other events, and then this is what is going to be his daily driver right here. And so we're going to hope this lasts another 2 years for him. Obviously, if there's any issues, he's going to give me a shout, and we'll keep him going full speed. So he's going to head back to Arkansas probably the next couple days and start school and go set some personal records on the track. No more football, though, right?
No.
Yeah, you're too good for them, that's why.
Yeah.
Okay. But other than that, we're happy that they came here and traveled here and they trust us to work on them, even though They traveled here instead of Savannah, but it's all the same team effort, and I'm glad that we're able to get him going again, and looking forward to what he does this next year with this new setup. So, yeah, BR.